Run Rider here. Welcome you back to another episode of Sleepy Hollow, the missing episode. Last time, Team Witness has actually ventured through the Greed Ring and met up with Nick Hawley. And they have actually confronted him, and he actually dove into the golden lava pit along with the slabs of the Judas coin in which he used the stained glass to capture it in. So it actually left Jenny Mills devastated because of her cockiness and why she fell for him in the first place. And the Hell Rings, they're actually getting to Team Witness's nerves. Like, they're losing their hopes. But they don't have a lot of time because Ichabod Crane, his damn soul is being tortured by Lucifer and Benedict Arnold. So they don't have a lot of time left. So, what will they find? Let's find out. Alright, Chapter 15, Wrath. Reader discretion is advised for brutal, disturbing scenes and tons of character bashing. Holy hot damn! This one was a truckload to make. I got so many demons to choose from here, even in OC. You'll see who. But Jesus, I had a ton of material to work with. And I feel that each of them deserved to be here in the first ring that opposes divine love, anger, wrath, etc. By the time Jenny retained her composure, Team Witness had made it to the marshy, hazy ring of the underworld, Wrath. They were in a constant debate as what the ring should be called, either wrath or anger. However, in hindsight, they decided wrath was a better word. They wandered on the hard green muck with the intense heat and humidity clinging to their skin. They noticed that with each passing ring since gluttony, that the temperature was rising, and it was no different here. It was like going through a dark, scary rainforest with its heavy tropic climate and creepy atmosphere. There was plenty of dead underbrush, trees, and swamps in this area, and they always had the instinct that some demon would ambush them off guard, until they wound up in a clearing. The gray sky was so opaque as overcast can be, and they heard some choruses of horrid screaming. Looking down the six saw a wide chasm. Down below it looked just like any other bayou, except about 90% of it was overshadowed by the damned drowning in it or forcing them to submerge. Here lies the fifth circle of hell, Wrath, Laura described, overlooking the enormous barbaric bog. This is actually the River Styx, even though most would consider it to be a bayou. But in life, in the sun, these were hateful. But down here, in the black sludge, they wish they'd never been born. The team saw the shades claw bite and press down on other souls to escape from the river, but all they met was deep, heavy torment. There are three types of the resentful here. First are the active wrathful, those that stay on the swamp's surface. Second are the passive, the sullen, that drown within the toxic river, those that are reaching out and gasping for air. The third are the slothful, those that aren't seen as they stay permanently submerged in the river's depths. The third cluster are those that had a lack of care in the world. All they saw was indifference and negativity, and so they never breached the surface, as they never cared to what the goodness God provided. They were never willing to accept the positive factors and are blinded by their own self-hatred and can't save themselves from drowning. Dante considers it to represent two deadly sins instead of one, sloth and wrath. It was derived of Greek mythology, but this is far worse. Gavin couldn't help but feel sorry for those that stay below the river. I can't believe this. Believe it, Gavin. It's all around us. How are we supposed to get across? We need to use the ferryman known as Phlegius. He was once a demigod in Greek mythology, but he was cast down here after being slewed by the titan of the sun, Helios. He's now a fiery demonic giant, and was sent here as punishment after torching the Apollonian temple of Delphi. He continuously wanders here, and he does have a hide made of molten rock. They say if you're sinful with hatred, he'll burn you and cast you down to the swamp or the river. Soon enough, the ground began to quake in sequence, and the poisonous gaseous river began to ripple. Just then an ominous titan marched up to them and made a low growl like a carnivorous dinosaur. His body was completely covered in basaltic rock, and crooked horns protruded from it, and thin flames were lit along with them like long twisted torches. They could have sworn he was wielding a club made of the same material, and Gavin believed it to be an enormous moblin. Thankfully, their fears weren't justified. "How much do we need to pay him?" "Maybe we shouldn't have to." Jenny walked up toward the edge of the swamp, and Pelagius snarled again while laying out a hand. She was unhesitant as she climbed aboard the monstrosity's crown, and the rest followed after a few hard gulps. He allowed them safe passage as he noticed the glowing emblem on their hands. With minimal effort, he marched onward. "Where are we going?" "We're going to the entrance of the Hirsi Ring, through the city of Dis." As the Titan trekked, there were countless people moaning below and reaching up to cling onto their transport, making the journey choppy like waves. From beneath the body, they could have sworn they heard an alto voice groaning. Before they knew it, a little tower of cerulean hair was poking out of the crowd of repressed anger. Probably didn't do the groan right. It was so distinctive that the team recognized who it belonged to. Marge Simpson? What? They were all flabbergasted on how and why she ended up here. They never had a clear explanation. Jake was the one who theorized that Marge probably died of natural causes, perhaps a fall from a broken hip after a leg snapped. He wasn't sure as the team gave him coy looks, but he pondered that Marge was indeed sullen toward Homer and her family, always overlooking his flaws and never correcting them. She also had a tendency to get what she only wanted, without any regard for kids especially. Nothing but a control freak and a nagger. She ruins fun that everyone else desires, and she also had a strong motive on destroying the things they enjoy that she does not. Like someone else I know. You'll see. But yeah, I did include Marge Simpson here. She's not the benevolent mother I used to know. Sounds kind of like Lita. Could she be here? Suddenly, as Gavin said it, his chest began to tighten. He held it in pain and couldn't stand the thought of it. His agony affected him so much that he didn't notice the feral creature leap into Pelagius. What the hell? Heads up! Jake caused the team to look up. There they saw a bloodthirsty tiny canine of sorts. Ugh. I'll explain that later in the author notes. He was growling like a malicious dog ready to claim its victims. Ha! Gavin immediately whacked the demon dog with one of his arm blades, barely slipping off the shoulders and knocking it into the fray of desperate souls. They began to scream louder and got more aggressive as they began to rock their escort, roaring in protest. The team held on for dear life. The river was surely the last place they ever wanted to be. I don't blame them. The fields of the ferocious souls were so immense that they hardly saw a crippled elderly man in a large gray mechanical wheelchair. I'll explain that later. Finally, after what seems like several hours, they made it to the other side of the swamp, and the citizens were worse. Ugh. Ernie Kurtz, this was like a parody name I came up with, but like I said, you guys should figure it out. I don't want to reveal it just yet. Anita, same thing. It's like a parody name, but I'll let you figure it out. You can pause here if you want. Or here. Startled as he witnessed the horrid sight, so they hurried along before they were spotted. A few others in the hellhole were another man, the White, Mitch Hiller, like Kurt. You can pause here if you want. It talks about more of the damned. There's Ezekiel Rage. If you guys if you guys seen the real adventures of Johnny Quest, you should know who Ezekiel Rage is. But as I would like to call him, Ezekiel Rubbish. Next was someone with bleach blonde hair named Jeff. He's gladly beating women to a bloody pulp along with Mitch, Ernie, and Mitch. President of Quahog. Ugh. Good thing he only made a cameo appearance in one episode of Family Guy Screams of Silence. Ugh, one of the worst ever. Ugh. I know Glenn Quagmire was like a hero in this case because it involved her sister, but come on. If he's really that caring about his sister, he should be caring about women in general. Backstabber. The man was late 30s. You can pause here if you want. Ha ha ha! Dean Winchester! I added him in the hell swamp. In your face! I hate Dean Winchester. I hate him so damn much. I always supported Sam. Always. And he was one of the reasons why I quit in season 7. Alright, who else is there? Ah, another person from Sucker Punch. Both Jenny and Gavin identified him as Baby Dell's wicked stepfather. I don't blame him. You can pause here if you want to see this. That son of a bitch should have been in the previous ring. Jenny couldn't agree more. Monster Diana and Fun was a redneck named Donnie Braxdale. Either Braxdale or Barksdale. I don't remember. I think it's Braxdale. I don't know. But if you guys seen the movie The Gift, you should know this. You can pause here if you want. Next was Jeffrey Patterson, who is actually part of the Blair Witch 2, who was part of the gang of murderers. You'll see them later, trust me. On the subject of old demons, Jenny immediately spotted the murderous nurse Gina Lambert. Gavin, Laura, and Alex managed to hold her back as she went ballistic and was about to charge toward her. No, Jenny! You will cause a commotion and the demons would notice us. This isn't a place to fight here. Your mom already sent her here thanks to the incantation you found, and she's in peace now. I understand your bitter feelings, but you have to let this go. Cream's more important. Jenny broke loose, but only with a grunt. Ugh. Suddenly, as if sensing fresh meat, the demons, including the noticeable ones, looked at her rage and decided to give chase. Oh no! Flight, fight, or freeze! He faced his teammates with indecision. They really needed to make a split-second choice to save their own souls from making reservations and being permanent residents of Hotel Hell. Flight! Alex squealed as she was the first to flee the scene of the growing horde gaining on them. At times they used long-range weapons including holy grenades, super soakers filled with holy water, and sometimes regular firearms which were hardly effective. Some even used methods of close combat as the damned managed to advance on them. They made it to a dark area and took quite a quick breather. This is insane! We can't hold them forever! We should just take a different route! What, are you kidding? It's getting more massive! Then we've no choice. We gotta escape to the city of Dis! Jenny said in alarm. Soon enough, the fallen ones were expanding rapidly. Come on, hurry! Off to the Hall of the Damned! We can't let them pass! Everyone was panting heavily, but still, they continued to run through the opaque tunnel. There were so many people and animals to pick for the anger ring, and it's quite appropriate since I released the full extent of my rage to each and every one of those putrid sinners bound here. First was Ren Hoke, from Ren and Stimpy, particularly the adult party and Ren Seeks Help. And it was number 1 in Phantom Strider's top 10 worst cartoons of all time, and for good reason. In it, he goes to a horse psychiatrist after his close friend breaks down hysterically of all the non-revealing insults he said to him. Technically, it wasn't revealed until one of the lost episodes. Ren reveals his past, and were taken on a journey as he developed into a psychopathic killer. To start, he had deep scars after he was hit right after he was born, which started his appetite for disaster. Then he began killing merciless creatures like insects to invertebrates, including a frog. I felt sorry for him. The episode centers around this, and Ren decided not to kill him as he wanted the frog to continue to suffer, much to his parents' dismay. So he did everything unimaginable, and even the doctor deems him uncured and a bona fide crazy ass chihuahua that enjoys to make people suffer, including Stimpy. Soon, Ren metamorphosizes into a monster that even ripped off a dog's hand and eats it. I'm not kidding, guys. Before he was locked up, his Ren continued to rave on. Not a huge fan of Ren and Stimpy, but I'd seen and heard of this animated atrocity, and the series was so bad that Stimpy's voice actor quit, and the show itself was universally panned. So it's no surprise to put this putrid puppy to sleep and suffer in the Wrath Ring. Second was a cameo character in Family Guy called Jeff. As I mentioned earlier, he's a brutal woman beater, as he constantly abuses Glenn's sister Brenda in the episode Screams of Silence. He made the heroic effort by slaying him with a car crash at full throttle, killing Jeff on the spot, which I believe is what every woman basher rightfully deserves. And don't get me started with that drug-driven. I made a parody name known as Enrique Kurtz to let you figure out who the demon is. All those aforementioned abusers deserve the most heinous eternal punishment they can possibly receive. Next was Marge Simpson. I listed all the reasons above, and while her hairstyle is popular, her character is not, as she's a joyless, unfunny, life-controlling prick that everything has to be done her way alone, and keeps overlooking past mistakes by Homer or those that were meant to be hated. Marge deserves to be in the river from her neutral nature, self-indulgent attitude, and her egotistical complex. Baby Dell's stepfather was indeed damned here. He was the aggressive guardian and sucker punch who wrongfully committed her to a mental hospital as well as forging a document determining her fate. A person like that should be eternally banished to the bayou. Another was Jeremiah Stewart from Johnny Quest. While I do consider him as one of my favorite villains, even from my childhood, I consider him to be part of the river. He's wrathful in Quest World anyway, but in reality he's a sullen paraplegic, even though before that he was like a nuclear terrorist. While his henchmen Julia and Lorenzo do most of the work, he's still a murderer and psychotic freak to no end, always hellbent and exacting revenge on Race Bannon, the Quest team, and other countless victims. Another villain was Ezekiel Rage, or Ezekiel Rubbish, as I like to call him. I sympathize his loss, but his heart is just as contaminated as sludge can possibly be. I would also include Dr. Zinn, but his placement has been undecided, as either he'd wind up here or one of the violence rings, which you'll see later. Not to mention the redneck Donnie Braxfield from The Gift. He's one of the worst roles Reeves has ever done in his entire acting career. I despise the abusive psychopathic redneck, and I don't give a single rat's ass that he had a deplorable background. What we see is far more important. Like Casino, he plus another character deserves the worst possible treatment, no exceptions. There's also Mitch Hiller from Enough. You know, the person who represents wrathful male spouses. Live and let die, F-Rag. My OC Lolita and Nurse Lambert made a return and got some proper justice. And yes, I said it. I want Dean Winchester to permanently be hellbound. Sam isn't perfect, but Dean is a demon through and through, all because of his heartless, wrathful sex and drinking addictive nature. In fact, it was truly one of the reasons I loathe Supernatural so goddamn much. Seriously, you've got to freaking end it, which they couldn't because of the virus, but come on. He deserves the worst. And I bet it's a huge reset button anyway. TV's dying and Crowley's just a pointless, shabby demon for the sake of just being there. I'll include Dean's pathetic father and another enemy later. There's Jeffrey from Blair Witch 2, and I actually like Nostalgia Critic's review of that, even though I despise him so much. And here are the songs for that. 5 down, 4 more to go. I'm sure you're surprised as I am the team witness have made it this far. Will they end up being killed and damned by the brutal horde, or progress to the city? Find out next time, guys. Until then, this is the Ekron Rider signing out. Man, these rings fly by fast. Hold on for a second, guys. Internet is just so bad. Hopefully it'll play this.